Welcome to Wrapping Things Up, the podcast where we tie up the loose ends on all things packaging so you walk away with solutions. Coming up on today's episode.
Welcome to Wrapping Things Up, the podcast where we unpack the real world of packaging and production. My name's Robert Barkley. I'll be our guest host today. Today, we're talking co-packing with a long-time working relationship I've had with Mr. Mike Reilly.
Call me a friend.
Yeah, MSI. We know each other for, 10 years now?
It's been a while.
It's been a bit. So we want to talk about what's changing, what's predictable, what's not, how brands choose partners in the co-packing world, how co-packing helps them scale. So, Mike, if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're just a veteran at this and been doing this for a little while.
Veteran makes me sound old. Mike Reilly. I lead our engineering organization, technically vice president of engineering, maintenance, and safety at MSI Express. Been with MSI Express now for over 5 years. Prior to that, I spent my entirety of my career with General Mills through a variety of roles from manufacturing through packaging R&D all the way through sales. So had the good fortune of meeting Charles Weinberg, our CEO, 20 years plus ago. Had a great, we worked well together and fast forward to today and can't believe I've been with them 5 years already.
Sure.
Hard to imagine.
Great. Well, let's just have a quick kind of warm-up question, if you will. What's the most common misconception that you hear when people are like, we're just going to use a co-packer?
I got a great story about that. So my last role at General Mills was in the external supply chain. And so I was in the evolution within General Mills of going from we do everything inside to, I guess we don't have either capacity or we can't do it. Fine, we'll go outside. So there was this reluctance to go outside because I think it was kind of this pride thing, like we can do it.
Sure.
And it's not a matter of you can't do it. It's a matter of do you want to invest the time, money, and resources to do it. So I think the biggest misconception is it's kind of a necessary evil.
Okay.
Those partners of ours, and we work with all the big CPGs, top shelf customers we're very proud of, but you can see the ones that are very strategic and see us as an extension of their supply chain as opposed to a bolt-on on the end.
Okay.
That's the big difference.
Tell me a little bit about how you got into this world. Obviously, I know you mentioned you were at General Mills a little bit, but what made that change to get into the co-packing world, and how's your perspective change making that transition?
Yeah, good question. So I spent first half of my career in General Mills manufacturing facilities and did all my work there. And then as I moved up in more responsibility, I started getting onto projects where we were doing stuff outside. I was working with contract manufacturers, and you start to realize there's a skill set out there and a lot of talent. And as I evolved, my interest in leveraging what I knew from my experience in our plants to leverage that outside of the four walls became very intriguing. As I got into sales and started to work with our customers on that side, I saw direct correlation with working with our suppliers who were making the products or packaging the products for us. So I kind of intentionally went that way later in my career, and it just kind of hits all the high spots for me on what I like to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. When you say co-packing, what do you want brand teams to understand from that? And what's the difference between co-packing and co-manning?
A lot of people use those two words interchangeably, and they really do mean different things. So co-man is where you are making the product itself. And we probably do about half of our business is co-man, but it's dry blending. There are also co-manufacturers out there, understandably, that transform a product, add heat, form it, shape it, do the whole thing from start to finish. Co-mans and co-pack can be very separate and standalone entities. Someone like MSI Express does both. Okay. Just different skill sets of the people, and usually it goes back to your founders, your original owners. Where'd they come from? Did they start on the processing side? Is that what they knew versus packaging? And so we started. I think MSI was primarily a packaging, and as we evolved and our customers asked for more, we've evolved into new things, including making gummies. We've actually recently purchased a facility. It used to be a Ferrara facility. They own Jelly Bellies, and they were going to close the facilities. We bought it, so now we're in the gummy making business.
That's exciting.
Completely new avenue for us.
Okay.
Yes.
What challenges have you seen with that?
So gummy manufacturing, a lot of people want to get into it. They see it as a way to add the functional benefits that are hot, protein, hydration, stuff like that. It's a long leap from the concept to the formulation to the manufacturing. The investment needed in gummy making is high asset value, and then you need to have some expertise in formulation.
Yeah, I imagine.
And so we've hired those things, and now we're starting to work with some of the smaller players, and they don't understand the whole commercialization process, which I know we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But the technology around making a gummy, there's an art to it as much as there's science to it.
Okay. Like you said, we'll get to that in a little bit. But what are some common issues that co-packers run into day by day or even year by year?
Unpredictability is definitely something.
I can imagine that.
You have to embrace it. The funny thing is, so when you put a budget together at the beginning of the year, and we all deal with changes in our budgets, don't get me wrong, but the difference in budget changes from my days with big CPG versus today is there's usually 30 to 40% of our volume that we hadn't anticipated at the beginning of the year because it came in on short term. Sure. Some business goes away for things outside of our control. And so you have to embrace the uncertainty of it. More ongoing issues are the things you hear about from the macroeconomic factors out there. So you really need to create an environment for your employees that allows them to continue to grow in their careers. Yeah. Because they'll go find it somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, I know you guys are located partially in the Midwest, and it's a hotbed for that sort of stuff. So I can appreciate that.
Yes.
That kind of rolls into the forecast, reliability, and planning, which I imagine is very difficult in your guys' world. It's difficult in our world, too, as probably for pretty much anybody.
Yes.
But what trends have you been seeing kind of in the market when contracts come up or customers come to you with what their needs are or how that's changing?
I don't think the uncertainty of forecasting or the lack of accuracy has really changed. Sure. Again, I go back to my time with big CPG and major brands that everyone knows that you would think is a very predictable forecast volume. It's not year to year. And so then you multiply that with, we're dealing with 20 to 30 CPGs and the uncertainties that go with either they get a viral hit on social media and suddenly it's this huge popular product that you can't make enough of. It gets something bad in the press and suddenly the demand goes into the tank, and you just deal with that with all your customers. So there's always this generic in the contracts. You'll always see words that'll say, we will supply a 13-week schedule, right? Well, I don't know why anybody thinks anybody knows what they're going to do 13 weeks out, but usually it gets down to the month, and we'll order materials based roughly on the month, and then really you're not locking down until, if I'm fibbing a little bit, I'll say 2 weeks, but more likely you're doing it into that week before you get into production, which causes a whole bunch of waste in the system. And that's what we're always working on trying to minimize, is that noise on the front end.
Are there any cycles throughout this that maybe you've seen repeat itself, whether that's over a month or a week, like you're saying, or even multiple years? I mean, you've been doing this long enough to probably see a lot of that. What have you seen?
Not surprisingly, just the internalization of volume and then bringing it back out. Okay. It is not uncommon for us to say, yep, we worked with you on that 5 years ago, 6 years ago. There's really good reasons why that happens. Recent in the news, Kellogg split into two companies. Yep. Kraft Heinz is doing it today. High value companies that for reasons that have nothing to do with us, they're having to internalize volume or send it out. And it usually kind of follows the path of your executive leader changes in the supply chains at those companies. And you'll see that ebb and flow. And you can't fight it. You have to see it happening and go with the flow and just kind of react to what their choices are at that time.
Okay. And just for our listeners that maybe are newer to this, internalized meaning they're taking the business from co-man or co-packers like yourselves and trying to do it in their own areas.
So just in general, doing it internally is always the first choice for most companies. And there are people, we can train them the way we want. It's our product, like we own the whole thing. The reality is, if you have a high enough certainty of volume over time, it does make sense for you to do that inside, because then you can develop the expertise and stuff. It is on the fringes. It is either I can't make enough myself and I need this right now, back to school, holidays, you name it. or it's a new product. We have no idea if this is going to be successful in the marketplace. So we're going to put it outside, and if it fails quickly, no harm, no foul. And we've had products that we've started up and grown over time, and when it gets to a certain stability, they've internalized it. And that is absolutely probably a best case scenario for us. And while that sounds odd, we need our customers to be successful. So if we help you grow a brand that's that successful, we've done our job, and we know you're going to come back to us the next time you have a new product.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You've kind of mentioned the merging and separating and a little bit of that. You may or may not know this, but do you have any idea what's causing that?
I've heard the term center store for the last 15, 20 years, and that's all of the boxed foods that are obviously not in the produce section or the frozen section. Center store sales have struggled mightily. They continue to get challenged with the Costco's of the world, the Trader Joe's. Those folks continually sell more fresh, more less processed. Most of your big CPGs are struggling with that. And so you'll see them buying smaller brands that are playing in those spaces, like a Kellogg, like a Kraft Heinz. I can't speak to the exact particulars, but it is that continued margin pressure that they've experienced, and they find out that they're more valuable as separate entities in the marketplace.
We've talked a lot about the big CPG guys. Let's switch focus to maybe somebody that's just starting up. I've got a new product, and I want to see what I can do with it. What are the benefits of a co-packer or a co-man for that side of the spectrum?
Yes, and so we call it our emerging customers. We solicit them. We try to find them. We make ourselves available to them. Most small food companies start out in somebody's kitchen, and then they'll graduate to a commercial kitchen. And most urban areas have industrial kitchens you can rent, and then you finally hit the big time. Either you get a local chain of grocery stores, or you hit a Costco, which is just so much volume. It's a whole nother level. But usually where their functional expertise ends is usually around the product itself. They have passion around their product. They get into the package because that helps sell the product. But everything associated with that is not something they do. So one of the things that we try to bring to the table is that full surround you need. Specifications, suppliers, master data meaning the bill of materials. What are the regulatory requirements? What is, setting up a new UPC there's a very specific process you have to go through. Those are all things that we are used to doing. We can bring that to the table for them, and we become kind of their commercial team while they go bigger. And that's usually, they're so worried about their product and how it presents at the shelf that the more you can take off their plate and let them focus on their product, the higher value it is for them.
Sure. And I'm assuming that plays into your forecasting role. All of a sudden, an emerging customer shows up, and maybe they do have, I got into Costco, I don't know how to handle this type deal. How do you guys take that into consideration, where maybe they've got a contract that they have to fulfill within a certain time? What do you guys usually leverage to help them fulfill that? Some
really hard questioning of what exactly do you have? What do you think you have? What do you need next month, 3 months? Because usually it's a high level of excitement. It is, we're going gangbusters, and we need this much, and we can give you that if you want it, but just realize there's a price tag there. Yeah. But what we can do is we can help you start to lever up, and we'll lay out a timeline together, and we'll say, here's the capacity I can give you today. And then if we need more, I can probably give you a little bit more, but then there's an investment that has to be made. And that's a 6 to 9 month lead time. Usually things tamper down a little bit, and by the time you get there, either they're going to clearly continue to escalate, and it's a no-brainer to make the investment, or they're headed the other way and it's clear there's no need for it. Okay. So it's always asking the right questions early on to make sure that you're right-sizing the solution, which is a major importance in the contract world. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What do you look for in partners, both in customers, what you want in that, and then also in machine manufacturers or equipment providers for whatever contract you're trying to fill? Yeah. It's really come home in my world, in my time with MSI, the importance of partnerships. And it's an overused word, right? It really is about those suppliers, whether it's equipment, ingredients, packing material. that you can count on, that their word means something.
Yeah.
We're fortunate, our CEO, Charles Weinberg, developed very strong relationships with OEMs over time. And that's just from doing, being a good, honest broker, right?
Sure.
Do what you say you're going to do. Don't overhype it. Don't try to get a good deal on this one thing at the expense of a relationship. The importance of a partnership, the importance for us to trust somebody like a Viking Masick and know that when you say something's available or not available, that it's straight up. I know you're telling me the facts. It's the same things we value is what our customers value. And so we're not going to say no to any customer, but very quickly you start to find out if they're honest brokers or not. And, they will take care of themselves over time. Our key is if we find somebody, and it doesn't happen very often, but if somebody's not going to, it's not about even paying your bills. Like people can get into cash flow issues. We get it.
Yeah.
But we need you to be an honest partner. Yeah. And if you're struggling, we're going to work with you. But it's all about the ability to trust the other side of the table.
Just transparency.
That's the key right there.
Yeah, for sure. What type of flexibility do you guys look for? Meaning whether that's equipment, whether that's substructure of film, product, or even just what is required of you that is then ultimately required from your customers?
So flexibility is probably another overused word. To me, flexibility isn't the ability to do anything anytime. It's more being able to respond to a business need in an appropriate amount of time.
That's a good way to look at it.
So I would think similar for you guys. I can't have every piece of equipment ready for you to buy off the shelf.
Right.
But I can see the buying trends. I can see where people are interested, and I'm going to start to build chassis, or I'm going to have something ready to go. We tend to have equipment available for any packaging format. Now, we might not have a lot of it, but it's always key that if somebody needs a gable top carton, stand-up resealable, a Doig style, whatever it is, we can get you into that business really fast, but we're probably going to have to invest with you or on your behalf really quick. If you don't have the equipment, you know where to go find it. So whether it's new equipment or if I'm going to go onto the used market, that's another place where we spend a lot of time is looking at used equipment. We have good relationships there. So if we need something, we know who to contact, and we usually can get our hands on stuff. That's where flexibility comes in. And if our customer comes to us and we're running down a path with them and suddenly they say, the retailer decided not to put us on shelf or whatever, you got to be willing to flex and back it up, and slow down. And you do that up front. What happens if? And so you do some scenario planning on the front end so that when and if that were to happen, there's no hard feelings there. It's just business.
Yeah.
It's about being ready for whatever comes your way, because it most likely will.
And I imagine those can be some tough conversations to have when you have an excited customer that feels like they're going to blow up and they've created the best thing in the world. And you kind of need to just temper those expectations a little bit.
It really is. And again, we're trying to be a partner, right? We're trying to provide you with a realistic assessment of the marketplace based on our experience. We can only tell you what we've experienced. We're never going to say no, but we're always going to ask you, is this what you asked? And just so you know, by you asking that's what this means in terms of time, cost, whatever it is. Once you kind of lay down and the other side of the table can see you as a trusted broker, then it makes everything else much easier. The letter of intent, the contract kind of becomes a pretty easy thing. Most of our growth comes from existing customers. And so you've laid that groundwork already. You can see it both on our side and on the customer side that sometimes new players will come in, and then they got to get to that level of trust. And so suddenly they're peeling back, or we're peeling back something. We're like, whoa, no, we're good. Like, we've got a longstanding relationship here.
Yeah.
So that trust, transparency thing that you mentioned earlier is very important.
Sure. We've talked a lot about your CPGs, your new guys, there's middle guys in between. And I'm not saying to say who's your favorite, because that's kind of tough. But what is kind of that ideal customer profile, if you will, for a co-packer or for a co-manufacturer?
Somebody that's transparent with us, just like we are with them. The best customers are those that have a point of contact for us that is sustaining in that role for a period. It's not a job that you jump into and then jump on to another one. The more strategic customers that we play with are folks that have had people in that role for 5 plus 10, 15 years. Yeah. They're reading the tea leaves inside their building early on, giving us that intel. We're telling them what we're seeing from our end, and it just becomes this very proactive, you're ready for whatever comes. Those are the best customers. The converse of that is when it becomes a very tactical, we need you to make this, and I need you to make X millions of these, give us your price by Friday. And we know that that's gone out to 10 other competitors of ours. There's a place for that in the business. I'm not suggesting it's not, but those become very transactional relationships, which are tough to sustain.
Yeah. I would say we see that very similarly here.
I'm sure you do.
Especially with, like you said, partnership gets thrown around a lot.
It does.
That transactional type is not going to fit that partnership role.
We all get it. You never know what's going to come up. You never say never. But you can always be an honest broker.
For sure.
You can always sit down and be honest with the person across from you. You might get away with it on the first deal. It's not. You're going to show your true stripes at some point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What
do you wish customers, I don't want to say this, understood why a contract is structured the way it was?
I have found those to be pretty, those become pretty boilerplate over time. You recognize the sections of the contracts, and everybody's got their own little spin on it, but a lot of things come down to a few things. Who's going to pay for the equipment? Who's going to pay for the materials and the ingredients? Is there a guarantee of volume, or is there any certainty of volume that we're committing to? Because our pricing is based upon the underlying revenue that's going to be generated. So you'll see companies handle it a couple different ways. It's rare when somebody says, I'll guarantee you X amount of volume. What they will tell you is we're willing to be at different price tiers. If we don't have that volume, we'll be at this price tier. And obviously, as we give you more volume, we want a lower price point, which we're very happy to do. Those are the big things. The rest of it's kind of what happens if there's some kind of market recall. That's another big one that we have to talk about. And being able to trace your products, being able to take what we get in through lot codes and track it all the way through to the shelf. I mean, those are all things that are standard, but how they handle it, who covers the costs and all that, those can be the noisy things on the end that you hope never happen, but they got to be in the contract.
Need the protection there, so at least if that happens, what do we do?
You got it.
Is there anything that maybe you yourself or MSI Express just really want to let customers know about your team, your company?
Yeah.
Anything like that you just kind of want to get out there?
We want people to know we're the easy button. And it's for a variety of reasons. I already talked about the commercialization side, the expertise we can come with that. There's a lot of people that have big CPG experience like myself. We are truly empathetic to what they're dealing with on their side of the table. We know that when they are coming to us, they are having to manage all of the different stakeholders inside their four walls. And so we just try to convey that we want to be your easy button. We're going to work with you not only to get your product to market, that's a no-brainer, but we're going to help you be successful inside your building. Having done that role, being a co-man manager is a very challenging job.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time talking with marketing and sales, especially if it's a new product, and they want to know when, how much, are the costs staying in line? And so we definitely try to provide certainty of timeline, certainty of cost. Again, transparency and trust. We want you to know that we're going to tell you when there's an issue, but more importantly, we're going to tell you what we're doing to resolve that issue. And we're not just going to say yes. We're going to say yes, but.
Sure.
So that there's just a clarity of understanding on your side of what you're going to get from us.
If our listeners remember one thing about Mike Reilly or one thing about MSI Express, what should that be?
Bring it on.
Okay. I like that.
We'll take on any challenge. We take on any challenge. Nothing's too big. There are days when I wonder if we're going to figure it out, but we always do.
Yeah.
I love the team I work with. I love the people that are out on the floor. I love spending time on the floor because we got really good people. And bring it on. We're ready for it.
I appreciate that for sure. Are there any types of partnerships or projects that you guys are most excited about that are coming up this year? Whatever you can share.
We've got some new customers that we haven't had before, which are pretty exciting. You always think something's going to do well in the market. We'll find out. But yes, we've been fortunate enough to have been chosen by some companies that you'd recognize, and they're investing with us, and we'll see how these products do. It'll be exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's one reason I love this industry. It always changes.
It really does.
It seems every day there's something new that's coming out. Is there any problems that you feel MSI solve, that there's a gap in the marketplace that you guys are really good at? I
really do think it's that emerging customer section. There's a lot of folks that they've grown up with either one customer. So a lot of co-mans start because somebody left the big company and went and started a place and started doing business. And they get really good at either making that product or packaging that product. We're not that. We're much more broad-based. And so regardless of what category you want to play in as a new emerging customer, we're going to be ready for you. We've probably done it.
Okay.
And so it is, I think the gap can be, how do you go from industrial kitchen to now kind of playing in the big leagues? Because a lot of guys will say, well, if you're not doing more than 1 million pieces, like I'm not your person, right? We'll play low, we'll play small with you because we're placing the bet that one of you guys is going to hit it.
Sure.
And then we're going to be there ready for you. So nothing's too small. In fact, our work with you, as you know, we've bought a small stick machine.
Yep.
For the express purpose of that, which is, on our big 12 and 18 lane machines, those are for the heavy runners that we all know. But there are people that want to get into that stick making world that can't afford that and frankly don't need that much volume. Yeah. So we'll play small with you. We own a two lane and a 6 lane of yours for that express purpose.
Good. Glad to hear that. So, Mike, where can our listeners and our viewers get in touch with you?
Yes. Most importantly, MSIExpress.com. I think it's a very user-friendly site, and there's a very easy way to contact us, and you'll be very surprised how quickly you hear from us. And then, obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. You'll find me out there. I'd love to connect with you if you're interested.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Mike, it's been very helpful, I'm sure, for our listeners and our YouTube viewers, especially your perspective on the cycles, the trends, how you guys help both the little guys, the big guys, and everybody in between. I
appreciate the opportunity, Robert. This was less scary than I thought it was.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, know each other long enough.
Yes.
Hopefully that helped a bit. But then again, thanks for listening. It's been wrapping things up with your guest host, Robert Barkley.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Wrapping Things Up. Make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Stay up to date by checking out Viking Masick on social media. Thanks for watching.